Hi, my name's Matthew Waterich. I made this video to document my experience digging an in-ground garden bed into the clay of my backyard. So I promise not all of these are going to be just pictures, but I originally wasn't planning on turning my gardening experience into a YouTube channel. I bought a home back in February, and after quarantine started, I started gardening, and I want to share that with everybody to equip people to not fall into some of the same pitfalls that I've fallen into, and eventually we'll get into some videos, but first I wanted to document a little bit of my experience building out my backyard garden. So this picture was taken in my backyard last March, I think March 12th, and that was my original garden bed. I dug out a 8 square foot plot, 1 by 8 feet, and put in 2 peach trees, a fig tree, and 2 little plants, a bell pepper and a strawberry plant, as you can see here in this picture. This was originally supposed to be a gift for my wife, but eventually it kind of turned into my hobby as we started putting more things in the garden bed and expanding a little bit. You can see I eventually added this little cilantro plant. The fig tree started growing a little bit more. I think this picture was probably taken late March. And then around mid-May, we decided to expand our backyard garden a bit. So I dug out another 8 square feet of topsoil and grass, and you can see here there's only about an inch of topsoil before you just hit straight clay. And I dug out these 2 little clay holes for an olive tree, which is doing great to this day and is now in the front yard, and a pomegranate tree, which has long since died, but I think that's a big part of the hobby of gardening. You know, sometimes your plants die and there's nothing you can do to prevent that. And so on May 26th, this was the final result, and I was super happy with it. Honestly, it looks really great, but as we did before, after a few months, I eventually decided that I wanted to expand once again. Which brings us to the main event of this video, digging out the in-ground garden bed out of clay. Now, this was crazy. So I took everything out of the garden bed. I decided to move the olive tree and the fig tree to the front yard and transplanted them in July, which was very unwise. Just word to the wise, do not do that. Do not transplant your plants, trees, bushes, anything really in the middle of the summer. Just wait for the fall and do it then. Obviously, if I had done that, I might still have the other peach tree, but I think I lost it for some different reasons that I'm about to discuss. Which brings us to the final result. This is the hole that I dug for the in-ground garden bed. And as you can see, my backyard is almost all clay. That's just how they build these houses now. The dimensions of this hole are about 6 feet by 8 feet by 1 foot deep on the first level, with 2 different holes that are 2 by 2 by 2 feet. So eventually I'm going to do the math on how many cubic feet that is in total, but it's a lot. So the whole purpose of my thinking of digging these 2 different holes that my legs are sitting in, which are 2 by 2 by 2 feet, was that I wanted my peach trees to have space to really put their roots down. And I also wanted them to get a lot of water. So I didn't want their roots to have to be pushing into the clay, which is super hard to get through. As a person, I'm sure plant roots do a better job of really getting into it. But the whole thing kind of backfired on me. Basically, those clay ditches wound up turning into standing pools, like swamps. And I'll eventually discuss this a little bit more, but one of the peach trees, the smaller one, its roots eventually just rotted away, and the other peach tree began to suffer as well because so much water was just standing in those drainage ditches. Eventually I filled it in. I think this is from July 4th, and you can see I got the peach trees back in the bed. In the left-hand corner there, I found some wild cucumber that eventually I realized was poisonous to dogs, so I tore it up. But those plants in the bottom middle are 3 sweet potato plants, 2 jalapenos, and an ornamental pepper bush. Howdy! So it's August 30th. I'm out here today with my in-ground garden bed. And let me just get a good shot of it here so you can really see the whole thing. I want to stand back. There it is. As you can see, I made a lot of additions to it. I went ahead and got some chicken wire and some just cheap fence posts from the local hardware store. Basically put these up because we had some rabbits
way back. I no longer have strawberries in this garden, but I did have strawberries, and the rabbits came and ate them all. So just a quick rundown of the kind of stuff that I have in here. These over here on this side, as you saw from that picture, all of this greenery is from just the single 3 sweet potato slips that I put in on July 4th. Or maybe it was the week that followed it. I'm not sure, but it's August 30th today, so it's been about 2 months, and they have just blown up. I water about once every 2 days, and we've had about a week of upper 90s, lower 100s out here in Austin, Texas, so it's pretty hot. It's pretty humid. I have over here, these just got put in the other day. These 2 are little jalapeno plants I just got from the hardware store, and this is an older jalapeno plant, and as you can see, it's a little withered. It's taken a little bit of beating, but it's still there. It's still out. You probably recall from some of those previous pictures, I used to have 2 peach trees. Now I only have 1. So part of the purpose of this channel is to help other people learn from my mistakes. One thing I learned is just the importance of really good drainage. As you recall from those previous videos, I had 2 drainage ditches I dug out that were these big holes right here and over there. Maybe I can overlay a screen of what that looked like. And basically my idea was these things just get heat blasted during the summer, these peach trees, and I want them to have a lot of water and a lot of access to water, but I gave them a little bit too much access to water. Those drainage ditches kind of functioned as pools, and as you could see from that image where I dug out out of the clay, there's not good drainage. The water just kind of pools in the clay. And so what I've resorted to doing, I kind of came around back and dug out a little bit here into the clay and into the ground, and the same over here next to this other ditch, so that when it rains, the water actually has a chance to exit. And you can kind of tell, based on what's dead and what's alive, what gets water when it rains. You can probably also see if I kind of lower my phone, which I'm using to film this, down into the bed, I kind of have a mound there. It's a little higher there than it is on this side. What happened was this tree experienced something called peach tree leaf curl. Both trees really experienced it, and it looks like this. You see this tree here? It's mostly healed from it, but you see all these little holes in the tree that look kind of like a bug was eating them? Well, I thought bugs were eating them. We have a cattle ranch over nearby in the neighborhood. Right past this row of houses here, there's a cattle ranch. And I thought just the flies were eating this up, but no, that's not what was going on. Maybe if I could find one, see how this leaf here, it has like a red tinge to it, and the holes are surrounded by kind of some redness. Part of that is from water loss, part of that is from oversaturation, over irrigation, where the roots are just rotting in standing water. And so what I did, I dug this tree up again, which, for the record, you should not transplant a peach tree in July in Texas. That's a really bad idea. Wait till the fall, wait till it's cool, and then do that unless the tree's at risk of dying, which I felt mine was because of the mistakes that I made. And I went ahead and just got it in there again with about like 8 inches of soil before it really hits a level of there being a lot of water. So it's a few days later, and I thought the rain was a good opportunity to explain what I meant when I said drainage ditches. So those holes that I dug are full of water because it's raining. And that's what really caused the water rot, which caused the other peach tree to die. So I'm gonna step out in the rain here real quick and show y'all what I meant by digging these drainage holes on the sides of the garden. You can't really tell there, but there's water coming out of that hole slowly. This one over here on the other side where there's really some water, you can really clearly see it. Almost like a little stream there kind of trickling out of this hole. So that's the whole purpose of drainage. We want this water to saturate the roots but leave and not just be standing after it's done raining. And if I drop the camera down into the bed here, you can see that while water is collecting here, it's not collecting at the base of the tree over there. so that it gets the water it needs, it drinks it up, and the water that would otherwise be standing and cause the roots to rot drains out. So that's what I meant when I said that. And so just in conclusion for the video, to be honest, I love this garden. I think it's great. I think you're gonna have a better drainage solution, period, if you just do a raised bed. The in-ground bed completely is not worth the time. Let me get out of the rain for a minute. Here we go. The in-ground bed is totally not worth the time. I spent days working on this. I mean, probably, I don't know, 60 to 70 hours in total. You know, I plan on doing some math in a little bit to show how much weight in clay and dirt I actually moved to get this in-ground bed going. It's just totally not worth the effort. Just do a raised bed. You'll have better drainage, less work digging up clay, and probably a pretty similar result. Anyway.
Now it's time to do some math. I've cut back to this shot of me sitting in the bed when I had finished digging, but first I want to establish some ground units of measurement. I assume everyone knows this, but 1 cubic yard is 3 feet long, 3 feet wide, and 3 feet deep, 27 cubic feet in total. So this bed is 6 feet wide, 8 feet long, and 1 foot deep on its upper level. That's 48 cubic feet on just the upper level. You have to add in the 2 deeper holes my legs are sitting in. There's 2 of them. They're 2 feet wide, 2 feet long, and 1 foot deeper than the upper level, 8 additional cubic feet. So the total volume that I removed from this hole is 56 cubic feet. 56 divided by 27 is 2.07 cubic yards per hole. Now, a quick Google search shows that the weight of clay is 1,700 pounds dry per cubic yard. So that winds up being 3.5 thousand pounds for the amount that I removed if it was dry, which it honestly felt pretty wet. Obviously, you can see the calculations. That's nearly 6,000 pounds or 3 tons of weight. I think this paints a picture of why I've recommended just doing a raised bed. Even at 6 inches of a raised bed, a bed this big, 8 feet wide, 6 feet long, is going to be 1 cubic yard. So that's still 2,000 pounds of topsoil you're going to need to put in that raised bed. Obviously, in order to do any of this, you're going to need a wheelbarrow and you're going to need some gardening tools, but I highly recommend just doing a raised bed over an in-ground bed. If you're going to do an in-ground bed, get ready to do some digging. I'm not sure where I'm going to go with the future of this channel, but keep an eye out for some future videos on some of the plants that I'm growing in the in-ground bed. I've got some corn, some sweet corn that I planted back in July that's doing pretty well, and I think might be ready to harvest in late October, early November. I've got some pumpkins that I planted around the same time, and they should be ready to harvest around Halloween. I'm hoping we do a video on them. And I've also, of course, got the sweet potatoes that are doing super well, and I'm expecting that they'll be ready for harvest in early October. So keep an eye out and stay safe, y'all.